Welcome to the Polar Homestead. We learn finance, permaculture and prepping. A modern view of the world. Don't forget, freedom is in your hands. Stay safe and vigilant, friends. And now your host, Ralph KK. Launch in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to the apocalypse. This is me, your host, Ralph KK. And today, it is another day which we are trying to survive through the apocalypse or something like that. Check this out. Outside today is minus 10 Celsius, like pretty cold. And the snow keeps falling, so it's like piling up outside. So if you live in this kind of weather, you would know that almost daily you have to go out and shovel the snow, like out of the path, out of the entrance to your home, out of the door, out of your, you could say, parking lot or where your car is. So like daily, almost 2 times per day, in the morning and in the evening, you have to be outside, cleaning and shoveling the snow out of your way. Or else you could get buried in the snow. Anyhow, check this out today. I was online, I was on the computer, I was surfing the internet. Somehow I'm there at Twitch. I'm just like randomly strolling through the main page, and I could just not believe what my eyes had just seen. The front page, completely, the first page, entirely, completely, it was full of chicks in bikinis bouncing their boobs on the screen. Or like they somehow like do this kind of disgusting thing, which they grab the microphone and they are like somehow making these extremely annoying noises on the microphone, sort of like they are licking the microphone, and I've got no idea what the hell they're doing. But the point here being is that so Twitch is supposed to be some kind of a streaming platform for video games or some kind of social interaction with your audience, where you do some kind of activity. But today, December, the year 2022, somehow Twitch has become like some kind of soft porn service or something. I got no idea. The point is, you go to the front page, the whole page. There's like 50 cameras of girls in bikinis bouncing their boobs or like licking the microphone. I have no idea what the hell is going on, seriously. I mean, you look at this and it makes you think, this is the complete degradation of society. the upcoming collapse of the Western Empire. We are like at the top of where it could have been, and now it is slowly crumbling into pieces to become nothing. You know, across history, usually empires, they last something like, the big empires, they last something like 300 to 400 years. In our recorded history, have the Roman Empire, the Mongolian Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Dutch Empire, the British Empire, and currently we're in the realm of the American Empire, which has reached its peak and it's slowly crumbling to pieces. And if you pay attention, if you read some history books, not the new books, some old books from, let's say, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, you try to read some history. You try to read some history and try to study the ancient empires and how they reached the peak and they collapsed. You would notice that an empire usually reaches its peak, and then at the peak of the empire, like all kind of you could say questionable things start to happen, like people feeling at the top of the world and just losing common sense, and the point being that the society in these empires, they are too spoiled, they have too much, and they become wasteful, lazy, and complacent. Like at the peak of the Roman Empire, the last days of the empire, they had this in the Colosseum, they had daily games where they had thousands of gladiators fighting each other with 100 lions, 50 elephants, 100 crocodiles, all kinds of exotic wildlife, and they had this daily for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months daily. And this was funded by fake currency, because at the time the Roman Empire was already bankrupt. So they had these games in the Colosseum. There was unchecked spending in Rome, the capital, and in the provinces outside the capital. Unchecked, unlimited spending of money which they didn't have. Then society itself, it had lost its moral values, you could say. They didn't give much value to human life or to morality or to anything. So like life itself lost value. You could get a more detailed explanation or description of what happened at the peak of the Roman Empire, which seems not some kind of crazy when you read it. Because from an outside perspective, if you look at it from far away, you could say like, yeah, they are doing pretty good. But if you are in the inner circle of the Roman Empire, the leaders, the emperor, they knew that the time was ticking and it was just a matter of time. Like one day or another, it would all collapse. And the Romans, they devaluated their currency to almost a 0% value or something. Like they started with the dinars and the coins. I think it was like 100% bronze. I'm not entirely sure which metal it was. So the coins, they were like 100%, let's say bronze or another combination of metals, like could be silver, bronze, I'm not sure. But they start like at 100% of this metal, and at the end of the Roman Empire, this 100% had turned into less than 5% of the coin itself. And the coin and the army is what kept the empire in check. So you devalue your coin to nothing, to have no value, but the word of the emperor that it has value. Eventually it will come to an end. So like mostly what kept the Roman Empire at the top, or at the peak of what it could be, it was the money, the Roman coin, then the army, and then the roads for the army to be able to reach all these far out regions. The roads, they had to be in perfect condition. So the moment the money ran out, the moment they stopped taking care of the roads, the moment the roads became unusable because of lack of funding, then this was near the end, and this is what partially collapsed the empire. And so at the end of the Roman Empire, you could say that the nail in the coffin was the day when the Roman coin, the dinars, it had zero value, and the day they could not pay the army to work, you could say, to keep the people in check. So the day they could not pay the army in Rome, it was the day the soldiers, they dropped their weapons and they just left. And that is the day that Rome fell to the barbarians. I mean, throughout our written history of what we officially know, like the last, let's say, 2,000 years, 4,000 years, how empires rise and fall, it is almost exactly the same. Not exactly the same, but almost like a step-by-step guide of how to rise and how to fall. And at the end, it's all the same. And what always gets the empire is the bankruptcy, when there is no more money to support the empire. And in most of the empires, they always do the same. They devalue their currency. They create a set value, not backed by the real value of the coin, but by the worth, or by the worth of the emperor, by the worth of the empire, that they say, like, this coin, it is made out of some cheap alloy, but I say that it is worth 1 gold coin, and this coin is backed by the whatever empire. And so this will hold until one day the other nations, the other countries refuse to accept this value. And that is exactly what it is happening today to the American empire. The dollar, it has literally no value besides the fact that the central bank, that the Fed, they say, this dollar, it is worth $1, and it is the word that we say, and then you have to give this value because we say so. And what is happening right now is that other nations, like a lot of nations, they just got tired of this nonsense, and they are starting to dump the dollar to zero, to oblivion, and they are starting to buy like real valuable stuff like gold, silver, platinum, commodities, things with real value, not just some fake paper which has a set amount of value set by the central bank of the USA. So what we are witnessing right now might be the last breath of the American empire. We might be witnessing like a very slow decline. I mean, they're like trying to fight not to become irrelevant from just one day to another, but it is something like a slow grind to zero. like what's happening right now in Ukraine, for example. This conflict is nothing less but a proxy war between the USA and NATO against Mother Russia. And I mean, so far the USA has given Ukraine something like $100 billion, and they're going to approve another 80 billion or something, just like a ridiculous amount of money. And this conflict, it's only, the purpose of this is just to try and keep the USA where it is, but it's a very futile fight, because the USA, they cannot just fight against everybody else. Everybody else, that being most of the rest of the world, like the BRIC nations and just everybody else. Anyways, very cleverly the USA is delegating its imperialistic duties to a third party, like most empires do. They delegate their military duties to somebody else in order not to get their hands dirty, in order not to be blamed or as a guilty party, or in order for the population not to start revolting against the government or whatever. The latest example of this would be the British Empire. They almost conquered the whole world by using a third party. That is ridiculous. They did this by using a front company, which they used to go and conquer and create wars and go and pillage and steal the wealth of other nations. If you know history, the East India Company was the front for the British Empire, you could say. It was founded in the year 1600, and it was dismantled in the year 1775. So this company existed for 300 years. Isn't that such a coincidence that the empire mostly lasted something like that while the company existed? Such a peculiar coincidence. Anyways, the East India Company, they went around, they conquered, they pillaged, they robbed, whatever, almost the whole world. And they had a private army, something like mercenaries, soldiers, whatever, that only had to answer to the company itself. So the East India Company had its private army, and it was full of mercenaries. So this was beyond reach of the British government according to them. So like the British government, they said like, oh no, like whatever this company is doing, it has nothing to do with us. We are just like angels here sitting, and just, like money is falling on us from the sky. We don't know from where it comes from, but it's just falling on us. But we are not guilty, we're not doing anything, we're just sitting here. We're like peace-loving creatures, all while the East India Company goes around committing crimes, invading countries, robbing countries, enslaving people. All of this for 300 years at least. So the British Empire also used pirates. You could call them private contractors of the seas. These were the pirates. So they used pirates, the private contractors. They used also private companies like the East India Company to go around and conquer. And these freedom fighters, as they would be called today, these freedom fighters, they went around bringing freedom to everybody. But according to the British government, it was beyond their reach, because they were like private entities, which they answered to shareholders or whatever. So as the people of the East, they say the the Anglo Saxons, they were the first ones to master the skillful way to wage war without sharing or claiming any guilt. You create a third party, proxy wars, proxy conquest, invasions, and you just wash your hands like Pontius Pilatus, this Roman guy. You go wash your hands and you say, I've got nothing to do with this, It was the East India Company who did everything. I've got nothing to do with this. And also the pirates, these private contractors, they were around going in the Caribbean pirating everything. But me, I've got nothing to do with this. So the British Empire, the Anglo Saxons, they mastered the skill of proxy conquest, which is what the USA has been doing, or does at least for the last 50 years, you could say. They use proxies to wage war and to keep the choke on the whole world, to continue with their hegemony, as Noam Chomsky would say, the American hegemony against the world. And by the way, all this bad stuff that the British Empire did for 500 years or something, the people of other nations, they don't forget, they will never forget. The people of India, they haven't forgotten what the British did, and they will never forget. Recently it came, like a number came up of how much wealth was stolen from India. It was something like $80 trillion of today's money. Can you imagine that $80 trillion stolen from India by the British? That is ridiculous. So the people of India, the people of China, the people of Africa, they will never forget what the British did. As it is today, that the people of the world, they do not forget what the Americans do and what the Americans have done. So we are coming to something like a polarized world, the East versus the West. So the world is something like splitting in half. So I highly encourage you to go online, to research, to create your own opinion, and mostly to know what the British Empire did, what the East India Company did, what they did, You need to know, you need to do your own research, you need to create your own opinion. And that is the way how you become free. So let's say this is your homework for today, to research the East India Company. And for the next podcast, we're gonna talk about the British Museum of Natural History. These guys, these guys, this society, they are responsible for going around and confiscating most of the ancient objects of the world. But we will talk about this the next podcast. Don't forget, get your potatoes, get your pasta, and get ready for apocalypse.
I like sex in the air, especially when I sing. Telephone calls, muñeca dolls. Let's plan a fashionable exit through a millionaire's What about the moon and the stars? What about pink bras and colored cars? What about knickerbockers, socks, and all the white-collar jocks? No, I'm not a skeptic. I might be a loon. I'm always smiling and I love a